How's it going, guys? Welcome to a brand new video, and since The Penguin is starting filming very soon, I thought it would be cool to do an everything we know about the Penguin series. So if you want to be completely up to speed with what's going on, when exactly will the Penguin series be set, how many episodes are there, also the most recent updates from Colin Farrell, teasing some interesting details and how it can even tie into the Batman Part 2, the rating of the show, of which I think a lot of people have forgotten about, really interesting updates on casting, such as Maroni's wife, potentially, and how that fits into the plot. And then we're going to close off this Everything We Know video with more of the rumory kind of scoop side of things about this Penguin series and what insiders have to add to all of this, with things like Pattinson's Batman himself appearing in the show. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. It'd mean a lot to me if you hit the like button, maybe share this video out there, and if you want to see more videos just like this, maybe consider subscribing. Maybe you've come back here a few times through your homepage, through the recommended maybe. Maybe today is the day you hit that subscribe button, especially if you want to stay up to date with future Matt Reeves Batverse news. So to start from the top, the Penguin series is being written and run behind the scenes by Lauren LaFranc and executive produced by Colin Farrell, Matt Reeves, and Dylan Clark. Also, Lauren LaFranc, Bill Carrero, and Craig Zobel, of whom the latter is directing the first 3 episodes. Now, as I teased at the very beginning, it actually starts shooting in New York in just a few days' time, with Colin Farrell saying in one of his most recent interviews that it will be filming on either the 27th or the 28th of February. But what about the actual plot? What do we know about the plot so far and what the show will explore? So a little while ago now, Sarah Aubrey, who is the head of HBO Max Originals, she discussed how the Penguin will bridge the gap between the Batman and the Batman Part 2, by saying that Penguin will sit immediately after the end of the Batman and temporally before the events of the second movie, and that the show will come out in between the 2 movies, and then going on to say that the goal of this show is to show what Oz's life is like, and that's very much in the streets of Gotham, trying to get up and over as only the Penguin can, as a hustler and a strategist with his own ambitions. It is a great example of having the time over 8 episodes to tell a longer arc character story with a lot of delicious twists and turns and new characters. It's very much going to be about Gotham at that street level, because he's not flying around like Batman does. We are all embracing that as a very specific experience for audiences to have. Colin Farrell himself, of course, has given some teases as to, even where the show picks up, saying they will take place more or less right after the first movie, by saying it starts about a week after the film The Batman ends. So Gotham is still somewhat underwater. I read the first script for the first episode, and it opens up with my feet splashing through the water in Falcone's office. Even just that alone, I read it and I was like, oh geez, it's lovely. It's so well written. Even in the most recent interview of him talking about having read the first 5 of 8 episodes, and he says without a shadow of a doubt, they're extraordinary scripts. I mean, of course, some of you may say, like you would say that, but again, like the more we're hearing about this Penguin series, Colin Farrell couldn't be more excited. In another recent update with that interview with Variety, Colin Farrell expands further on what the plans are and teases the story by saying, I think it's going to be an 8-part thing for HBO, but around Oz's kind of rise into power, filling that power vacuum that was created when Falcone was killed. Matt's idea originally was to have the Penguin show begin about a week after the end of the Batman film, and then if it works, if the trajectory is interesting enough, and if the audiences go for it, and we do our jobs right, have Penguin feature in the second film and pick up where the HBO show will end. Which once again just kind of goes to show you, with what we've been talking about on the channel for some time now, this trilogy, or at least if you want to say maybe the third film will have a larger time gap, at least these first 2 films, the Batman Part 1 and the Batman Part 2, they are taking place almost, one step after the other. There's not going to be a whopping massive amount of time after the end of The Batman to that of The Batman Part 2. Now, another random thing to toss in here, I thought I may as well, might get some of you speculating about this, is in that same interview with Variety, Colin Farrell was asked if Oz will have a love interest in the show, and he responded that, "I don't know if it's love, I'm not quite sure yet where it goes." But Variety then asked, "But there's an attraction there?" To which Farrell replied, "For sure, yeah." Now that is super interesting, super interesting. Could it be Falcone's daughter? Because Cristin Milioti is 37 years old, and we know that Oz had a thing for Selina during the Batman, so you could argue with that age range he could still be into Falcone's daughter perhaps, but that would be a bit weird at the same time, because they're obviously got to be pitted up against each other, since Falcone's daughter will want to have the throne that her father occupied for 20 years, and Penguin is trying to take that. So let me know your suggestions. As for more plot teasers and what we could be getting there, I'll be saving that for that casting section of this video, as certain castings such as the children of Falcone, even Maroni's family, spell a certain direction of where this show could go, so stick around for that part. But as for the rating of this show, this is something that has excited me ever since we heard this. With that said, again, Colin Farrell said this quite a long time ago about the Penguin series, so obviously things could have changed along the way, but I really hope not. But Farrell went on to say this about what the rating of the Penguin could be. "I hear that we're going to be allowed to kind of do an R-rated version, perhaps, which would be nice to explore the violence that could permit, perhaps, and the darkness that could allow us to explore. So all of those things." So honestly, for me, fingers crossed for the Penguin show to be more of an R-rated show. Even though it's set in the Batman universe, it's pretty cool to imagine that you can have these spin-offs that is maybe more adult in tone with an R rating. And considering that you have a literal gang war in Gotham with a rise to power, which could see, all of these crime families get very extreme with really clawing for that throne of the criminal element, I would love to see that explored in an R-rated way. But don't get your hopes up, because we don't technically know right now, but at least that's what Colin Farrell heard quite a while ago now. Next up is how many episodes will there be in the Penguin series. Now, you've probably heard that briefly teased in what we've already gone over, but just to put it on the table for sure, the Penguin Limited series will consist of 8 episodes, and they are around 1 hour each. Now, obviously that won't be 1 hour on the dot, like literally 60-minute episodes every single time, but do expect a 50 to 55-minute episode to episode count, typical kind of HBO flagship show-esque kind of lengths. Like if you've watched Westworld or Game of Thrones, a lot of episodes are near the hour mark. So with the Penguin series, you're going to be getting almost an hour every single episode of Matt Reeves' Gotham. And what makes me so excited about that is, if you loved the grit, the crime, the energy of Gotham, you're going to get that way more than we ever got into in the movie. And in arguably one of the most interesting ways you could possibly see that city, through the lens of the criminal element, through that of Oz, this gang war, people clawing for the throne that Carmine Falcone left behind in his death. Alright, so as for the casting section of this video, well, we have had some very interesting updates on that recently, and we'll also be adding in what I teased before, some of the rumors in this casting section of the video, and how these characters could fit into the plot, because I just can't help myself. I don't want to just tell you, oh, this person's going to be in it, this person's going to be in it. I'm going to have to get into it just a little bit as to what that could mean for those of you who are wondering. So obviously, outside of the man himself, Colin Farrell starring as Oz Cobblepot, we have Falcone's daughter, Sofia Falcone, played by Cristin Milioti, and she is the female lead of the show. And the most recent official casting that we've got from Variety is that the Penguin has added Michael Kelly, who you guys might know from most recently Jack Ryan. Then the brilliant Shohreh Aghdashloo, of whom you guys probably know, and I was a big fan of Amazon Prime's The Expanse. Then we have Deirdre O'Connell and I believe Renzi Feliz. So while we've acknowledged that those are official castings, let's toss a rumor in there surrounding Shohreh Aghdashloo's casting, and this is coming from a scoop floating around from Daniel RPK, with her casting matching the casting call sheet of characters for the Penguin series, with this post from the Art of the Batman page saying, Shohreh Aghdashloo is likely playing Nadia Maroni in the Penguin. She matches this description on the casting call sheet via Daniel RPK. Female, 60 to 69, Iranian, tight-lipped matriarch of a crime family who runs her empire with her husband who's behind bars, recurring role. And I have to say, while that isn't confirmed or anything like that, I am very much so leaning on the side of this being true, because I have long theorized on this channel that since Maroni was put away 20 years ago in the biggest drug bust in Gotham's history, that he could very well still be behind bars during the events of this series, but attempting to reclaim power given that Falcone is no longer there to hold it. Hence, kind of the premise of this series. In a similar way to actually how Wilson Fisk maintained a lot of control even though he was behind bars during Netflix's Daredevil series. Because don't forget, after all, you still have the Maroni crime family out there who will want to seize this opportunity as well. And if it's true that Shohreh Aghdashloo could very well be playing Nadia Maroni and maybe conspiring with her husband, Salvatore Maroni, who's behind bars, in just how to get back into that position that they were literally once in 20 years ago, before Carmine Falcone ratted out Salvatore Maroni to all of those corrupt officials of Gotham that got exposed by the Riddler in the events of the first Batman movie. I also do want to mention that it is possible that Maroni could spring from jail, given that those who put him away were all corrupt and in on the case, and some of the legalities behind his sentence, especially given that he's already served 20 years, may finally slip, bringing him back into the streets of Gotham, but that remains to be seen. Those are the official castings that we've heard so far, but it's not like Sofia is going to rock up to town all by herself to take on those seeking her father's throne. We can't forget there is technically a whole Falcone crime family that helped serve her father, and so with that said, we've also heard some other rumors slash scoops, and this is from the Illuminati reporting that in addition to Sofia Falcone, we'll also be having Alberto Falcone appearing as a guest star. Now, Alberto is described as an addict battling his demons, something that makes his job as the new head of the Falcone family quite difficult. Alberto is a socialite in his 30s who is unprepared for his newfound responsibility in Gotham. And you can probably guess that with that character description that Sofia will really be the one wearing the boots. Now, other Falcone crime family members that they're looking to cast are Milos Grappa, described as the tactful consigliere of the Falcone crime family, and Johnny Vitti, described as an ill-tempered cousin of the family. In the comics, Vitti is the nephew of Don Falcone, and according to the casting call sheet, Johnny Vitti is also described as male, 50 to 59, Caucasian, a violent mob underboss who can also be a keen political operative. He's seasoned and ruthless, recurring role. Now, as for some more supposed scoops for Sofia Falcone, the Illuminati also report that the daughter of Carmine Falcone, Sofia, has recently been released from Arkham Asylum. She served almost a decade's worth of time after she was put away by none other than Oswald Cobblepot. Oz is in the fight for his life if he wants to become the king of Gotham's underworld, because Sofia knows how to hold a grudge. Now, again, take that as you will. How did Oz get her put away? Maybe he convinced Carmine at the time that she was a threat to his own empire and he didn't want his own child to usurp him, so maybe he supported it, and now she's coming back in since Carmine isn't even here. There's a whole bunch of possibilities, but let's move on to, I would say, one of the most interesting rumors that people have been speculating about for some time, and that is the question of, will Batman appear in this series? I mean, we're almost getting 8 hours of footage in Matt Reeves' Gotham. How will Bruce, even though Batman, as he said, I can't be everywhere, surely he'll pop up at least once or twice maybe in a scene that very much so warrants it, right? And that apparently is the case. So we've had Jeff Snyder say on his podcast, and Jeff Snyder is quite a reputable reporter, and he said the word is Pattinson is going to appear in the Penguin series, which makes sense. And I do agree. I was always wondering about it. I wasn't so sure. It was kind of the thing where I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he didn't. And I am leaning more towards this very much so being true. Again, we don't have to see him loads. Just to get him in a scene, as I said, that warrants it, wouldn't be too much to ask, especially with this all being connected to the Batman Part 2, with what Colin Farrell said earlier, with how, the Batman Part 2 will pick up at the end of the series, maybe after whatever major power shifts take place, especially with Oz most likely rising to Kingpin status by the end of the series. Batman might come and swoop in saying, I've got my eyes on you. Obviously something a lot better than that, but you get my drift. Of course, let me know your own theories for how Robert Pattinson's Batman could appear in the series. Granted as well, it could be as Bruce Wayne somewhere out there in public amongst the 8 episodes in addition to Batman maybe. But the final rumor for this rumor section of the Everything We Know video is once again from the Illuminati saying that they have learned from their sources that HBO Max is looking to cast Oswald Cobblepot's mother, Frances Cobblepot, mother of the Penguin, will play an important role in the upcoming HBO Max series. Frances has an intense bond with her son, and she loves him dearly. She tries to control her son, but she begins to lose control over her own life due to a tragic condition. Frances Cobblepot is in the early stages of dementia with Lewy bodies, which is certainly an interesting detail. In many depictions of the Penguin, he does very much so have, even one of the most recent ones, Fox's Gotham, Penguin had a very big bond with his mother, and it would be interesting to see this multifaceted side to Colin Farrell's Penguin in this series. I'm not saying make him an anti-hero or anything like that. It's just he is operating in this criminal element. He's been working for Falcone for a long time. He said in a deleted scene to Selina, people don't see it yet, but this city will one day be mine. But amongst all of that bravado and everything that he puts on, what is this other side to him? Does he have this mother to take care of? Has this mother always made him seem less than? Which is why Penguin was so pressed and triggered towards the end of the film, maybe when Falcone said, "You'll always just be a gimp in the suit." Oz is desperate to prove himself and show people that they've been underestimating him, and maybe her mother has had maybe a little bit to do with that, despite a close bond that they have. She's tried to control him and whatnot, maybe make their family name Cobblepot mean something finally, and that could be a big kind of, if you want to get into the character of Penguin, and as what we know of Matt Reeves, he loves exploring the roots of the trauma of each of these characters. So that applies to Batman. Obviously, he's got his own trauma that made him to be who he is, the Dark Knight. But Penguin, in a very Matt Reeves way, I wouldn't remotely be surprised if we get into some of this psychological aspect of what made him become, Oz Cobblepot, the Penguin, and if this has anything to do with that. But that more or less just wraps up everything that we know so far about the Penguin series. Make sure you let me know your thoughts about everything we covered today, and make sure that you're also subscribed to the channel to never miss out on a critical update in the future, whether that's regarding the Penguin show, the Arkham Asylum spin-off show as well, or even the Batman Part 2. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Let me know what you're most excited for in the Penguin series. But I'm going to love you and leave you now, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow, Cobblepots in the next video. Goodbye.